62% of women rely on their businesses for their primary income, yet only 88% of these businesses generate more than 100,000 in annual revenue. Another way, 88% generate less than 100,000. And everyone thinks they must work more to make more. Not necessarily. Our expert today will reveal the secret ingredient that could help create consistency and flexibility within your business without killing yourself at work. So today we're going to talk about how to price for value. Grow your wealth, live on your terms. Hello, powerful people. Welcome to the Conversations with Experts, the show that allows you to connect with experts in different areas of life and to help you become your best self and create your best life. I'm Millen, the host of the show and holistic financial independence mentor. Do you want to feel financially secure and never worry about money? Then you are in the right place at the right time, because you can start planning your way to financial success by downloading my wealth planner for free. And here's the link to this. And start working your way through it right away. Okay, don't procrastinate. Start working on this wealth planner right away. All right, and now let's get to our main topic, which is how to price for value and stop settling for crumbs. And my amazing guest today, I'm very happy to have her with us, is Patty Black. Welcome, Patty. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
All right. So Patty is amazing, successful, and really briefly, I want to introduce formally. So Patty Black founded the Black Group in 2006, and her company empowers women business owners who are experts in their fields. Having seen the same struggles time and time again, Patty teaches female business owners how to generate more revenue with less stress by reimagining pricing and selling and pricing for value. Patty raised 3 fantastic kids, all of whom are business owners and also work in Patty's company. Isn't it success in its own? That's why I said super successful in so many ways. So welcome again.
Thank you.
So Patty, I have a lot of questions, obviously, when I have experts that I want to basically share their wisdom with our audience. But I like to start with your story. Like, why do you do what you do?
It's a great question, and it's foundational to everything I do. So I'm happy to start with that. When I was growing up, my mom made these fabulous cookies. The whole house smelled good. It was warm. The cookies were gooey, really wonderful. And my entire life, I watched my mom eat the broken cookies. But it wasn't until I was a teenager that I thought to ask her, why do you only eat the broken cookies? Do they taste better? And she laughed and said, no, I eat the broken cookies so you can have the whole ones. And not too long ago, on a sunny April morning, as I was out for a walk, it occurred to me that's exactly what we as women do in our businesses. We have grown up with that role model of always putting others first and serving others, which is admirable. However, what I see in all the years I've been working with women business owners since 2006 is that we bring that concept unknowingly into our businesses, and everybody else gets the whole cookie, and we live on crumbs. So that means our clients, our families, and our staff, we put them first. And as I said, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, except that we pay a price. And what I started to realize over all these years was that regardless of industry, all the women that I work with had this underlying issue of feeling like there's a glass ceiling in our business. when there isn't. And the only person limiting us in our business is us. So that became a really important message for me to share. And this is the second company that I've owned. The first focused on political consulting and lobbying. Loved it. It was fascinating, and I'd never do it again. But I learned a tremendous amount that is applicable in helping my clients. And so the political consulting piece, the lobbying, when I had that company, if there were resources to help me grow and scale my company, I didn't know how to find them, and I didn't know who to trust. And I also see that's a really common issue. And right now, there is so much information out there and so many talking heads, so to speak, that are telling you they're giving you all kinds of advice. And the advice in itself is probably very valuable, but there's so much of it, and it's often conflicting. So we need to quiet the noise a bit and focus back on what's important to us as business owners and aligning our values with the business itself. All of that, in my view, goes back to pricing, because what I find is women, we undervalue ourselves and we're underpricing our services. And I work with women that are experts in their fields and really should be valuing themselves higher, probably charging more, but definitely have a better structure around their pricing. So there's a rationale and a strategy, which is much easier to communicate.
Fascinating. I love your story with your mom and broken cookies because that's exactly was my experience as well, especially with my grandmother. And I also like what you mentioned about having so much information that is available now and so much advice. And many of the advisors are very bright and very experienced and very successful, but you need to find a way to discern what is applicable for you at this phase of your business, right? And a lot of people having this challenging time with discerning, do I need it now, do I need it later, how can I if I take this advice, if I attend this training, how exactly it will apply to where I am right now in my life, in the phase of my business. So very good points. And I love that you brought it up. So when you mention it's very important to have a structure for your pricing, could you please define exactly when you refer to the structure for the pricing? What are you talking about?
Sure. I think because we want to serve others as women and as business owners, we have this false belief that we need to customize every time we have a prospect. And that leads to a lot of problems, one of which is much harder to communicate when you're making it up as you go, which means that your ideal buyer is going to have a hard time understanding exactly why you're doing what you're doing, why you're pricing in a particular way. So what I help my clients do is develop a pricing model. And there are lots of different pricing models you can use. But again, you have to align with your values and the way you like to deliver the service and make sure that it's all aligned. When you talk about structure and models, and it's standardizing, which simplifies your life as the business owner because you don't have to spend 3 hours working on a proposal. You've standardized your pricing. It has a rationale behind it so people can understand why you're pricing the way you're pricing. And one of the examples I use is a retail example. So there's a price point for every buyer. And we see this in the real retail world. When you look at, in the US, we have 3 stores. There's Walmart, Macy's, and Neiman Marcus. Walmart is lower end, usually lower quality, very cost effective. Macy's, you go up a step, it's usually better quality merchandise, and it's a little more expensive, but still pretty affordable. And Neiman Marcus are typically designer clothing. You're paying a premium dollar. And you can buy a blouse in all 3 stores. but which woman shops in which store depends on what she thinks is important. And that applies in your business as well. So one of the things that I hear a lot is, and it's what I call the hope factor, and it ties into the broken cookie effect. The hope factor is that we believe that every buyer who comes to us is an ideal buyer. And if they're not, and if we notice some red flags, we believe we can turn them into an ideal buyer. And that is something that actually works against us. So in the process that I teach, it's really about understanding who your ideal buyer is and where to find them. That's a huge piece of frustration for a lot of people. And they might define it well, but then they don't know where to find those people. And again, much like that retail example, your buyers are out there and they're ready to buy and they're looking for a solution. So part of that is getting your message out. And the more effective you are with your communication, the better they will understand what you're communicating. That starts with structure. So when you standardize and you're not making it up every time you have a new buyer, then you can communicate that better. So I'll give you an example. You might charge on a monthly basis. Perhaps you use a retainer and you charge a set fee every month, and you've calculated what it takes to deliver the service, to include your team, for example, all the different moving pieces. And I have a template that I share with the women that I teach so that they can actually calculate and figure out the value that they're bringing. It's not all based on your time. And in fact, it shouldn't be based on your time because you're not selling your time. You're selling your expertise. And that's what your buyers want to buy. They don't need 6 hours of your time. They need a solution.
Results. They need results. So,
Exactly.
and solutions to their problems. So, Patty, would you recommend for business owners, for women business owners, to have different levels of products at different pricing? Or you suggest that they know at what level they serve and they stay with this level of pricing with particular service or product?
It depends. It depends on, as a woman business owner, what are your values? What's important to you? And what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? So there's a misunderstanding, in my opinion, that you need to have more clients in order to make more money. You need to work harder and longer in order to make more money. And neither of those things is true. But it's what we've learned. It's what we know. And it's what we put in place. And again, it ends up creating a whole new set of problems, because if you bring in a whole lot more clients or bigger clients, you have to hire more people, which means you have to manage more, which means it's much more difficult to control what's happening and creates a whole new set of problems. So if you structure your pricing and raise your prices, you can then target those specific buyers that you really want to work with and that you know will get the best results from the service you provide. So it's taking that paradigm of what I call the myth of more. It's taking that and breaking it down to, maybe I don't need more clients. I need different clients. I need a different population and someone who really understands the value that I bring. And again, it goes back to not every buyer who comes to you is an ideal buyer. And it's really unlikely that you can turn them into one. And that's when we start ignoring the red flags. And there are warning signs while we're in the sales process, but often we ignore those.
So, Patty, very interesting. I hear from a lot of coaches that you just need to increase prices, and a lot of people just increase prices, and then they get to the point that they have problem finding clients. So, how do you, with your clients, how do you help them align the value that they deliver versus the high pricing that they would like to charge, but they don't have market for their high prices yet?
So when we talk about pricing, I'm focused on pricing for value. And there are some clients that I work with where I recommend they do not raise prices. So I'm not a raise prices as high as you can consultant. I'm a add structure and rationale and communicate differently and shift how you're thinking so that you're approaching this differently. And I have two pieces that fit together like a puzzle. One is pricing for value, and I have a program called Value Driven Pricing, and another that's called Painless Selling to Ideal Buyers. Because even if you're an excellent salesperson, if your pricing is not right, quote unquote, if it's not in alignment with what value you're providing, then it doesn't matter how much you sell. You're very unlikely to be profitable. And what I see with a lot of women business owners is they have these revenue ups and downs. And so everything that I do to help women build their companies is centered around generating more revenue with less stress. And that starts with pricing, but it doesn't end with pricing. So to your point, when you start looking at just raising prices, that's only one aspect. And sometimes it's appropriate and sometimes it's not. So it's very much has to be aligned with the business owner's vision and what they're working to achieve.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying this. So what would you recommend to someone, because I hear these questions among my clients when I work with my coaches, how would you recommend where someone would start if they want to align their value with the pricing? Because I think this connection, this relationship, value, pricing is very important, because of course we all want to have clients who we connect to, but also the content. So it's not only about how good you are at promoting your services, it's how good is your content, right? What kind of transformation your content helps your clients achieve. So how do you specifically, if you give us one example specifically, how someone can align the value with the pricing, where would this person start?
So I think a great place to start is with an exercise where you meet with a trusted colleague or your business advisor, or if you don't have a business advisor, you might want to find one, and somebody who knows you well and knows your business and knows what you're working to achieve. Sit down with them and you're going to exchange information. You're going to write down everything that you find valuable in the service they provide, and they're going to do the same for you. And then you're going to share that information. And what happens is when you have fresh eyes and somebody that knows you and understands what you're working to achieve, you'll be surprised by the things that they find valuable. And to give you an example, I did this exercise many years ago, and the person that I was visiting with, one of the things they put on the list is calm, that I'm very calm. And I would never have put that on my own list as something that was valuable. But as I started testing that and asking my clients, my colleagues, sometimes my prospects, that came across time and time again, that they really value that I'm very calm. And they know if they call me and they're upset about something, that I'm that calming presence. And they can vent, they can talk about their issues and their frustrations, and I'm not going to judge them or criticize them, or it's really about helping them. And so that calmness carries through, and clearly people value it, but I wouldn't have known that if I didn't go through that exercise.
Great example. So basically, it's very important to remember that it's not only the content that we help clients to receive, right? It's also the connection, the personality traits. What kind of leader you are in terms of leading yourself? how do you conduct yourself, how do you communicate, how do you convey value through your personality. So that's very important. And I always say that before I find someone who I want to work with, I see how well I connect to this personalities on different levels, like character, energetically, etc. It's very, very important. So that's part of the value that is included in the pricing model that you structure for clients, right?
It is. And if I could add to that, there are so many things of value. You have spent your whole career developing your network. And that is a huge value to the people you work with because you can make introductions. It could be to potential clients for them, which I do all the time. I'm so thrilled when I'm able to make those kinds of introductions. But also your staff, your team, your network, all of those resources that you have vetted, that you trust, you have just shortcutted the time it will take your client or your colleague to figure out the right solution. And saving people time is as valuable as saving them money or saving them frustration. And that's part of the value you bring as well.
Very good point. Very good point. Thank you. I would like to ask you to share with us one case study of one of your clients, how they were pricing their services before they work with you. What have you helped them with, and what kind of transformation they experienced after they work with you?
So the most common scenario is, we'll call this person Kelly, not her real name, but the most common scenario is that people are charging hourly. And the big problem I have with hourly is that it's very transactional. It's perceived as transactional. And you are providing a transformational service. Every one of my clients is. So the pricing hourly and the way that you're providing a transformational service don't align. And your buyers will recognize that. And they may even question that. So with Kelly, what we did is she was doing a set price with a proposal. So sometimes you need to do a proposal if you're selling into another business. If you're selling consumer to a consumer, often you won't need to do a proposal, but you need to propose verbally and be able to do that in a very succinct way. So Kelly had a situation, she's selling into a business and she's a PR professional, so public relations, and a piece of that was also marketing. As she's talking to a gentleman who had called her, he said he needed something done in 30 days that would normally take her about 90 days. So now there's urgency attached to it. He also explained that this was a new position for him. He had just taken a new job, and there was a lot of pressure on him. Every time that he's describing his situation, I'm thinking the value's going up, right? Because he has an urgent situation. He needs to look good to his boss. He wants to impress, and he needs a PR solution. So she's a great fit for his industry and for him. And she was pricing it, in my opinion, very low because she was basing it on an hourly rate and including her team with a blended rate, which means she took her rate, which is higher, and her employees' rate, which is lower, and blended it. So
Averaged it.
Right? So
averaged it, right? That's what you mean when you say blended. Okay.
Correct. And so it's like she's discounting her hourly rate, even though she's going to do a lot of this work. So all that to say, when she did the proposal and she shared it with me, I had taught her about value-driven pricing. We were using the calculation. As she went through that exercise, she said, I really don't think I can do this because what you're asking me is really to triple my price. And when you start with that false belief underneath everything, it probably is right. You would have to triple your price. And I still thought that was too low, because when we started looking at all the different values she was bringing to this gentleman, it was really amazing. So her initial estimate was about $30,000. we bumped it up. I asked her to go to 80,000. She was not comfortable going higher than that, and she ended up pricing it at 75,000. She presented it to him. He did not blink an eye, and she found out a week later that one of her competitors had given a proposal at $120,000. And they weren't worried about the price. The company wasn't worried about the price. If they understand the value, they never are. It's never about the money. It is always about the value. And so she priced it at 75 and then realized within a week she could have gone higher. And there was so much value packed into what she was doing. So that's one example of, we have a lot of fear that keeps us stuck, and it keeps our companies from being very profitable, and it keeps us feeling frustrated with that up and down revenue. And that doesn't have to be the case. You may not know how to structure or increase your pricing, but I do. And I can teach you how to do that in a way that isn't painful. And you can, it takes time for you to process it and shift how you're thinking, but you will very quickly start getting positive feedback and positive results that take away some of that fear.
Great advice. So that would be a great transition for us to talk about how people can actually benefit from your wisdom and connect with you and maybe work with you. So could you share this a little bit for our audience?
You bet. So I love to connect with people on LinkedIn. So you can reach out to me there, and please put a note that you heard me here so that I can make that mental connection. And it's Patty with a Y. So it's Patty Block on LinkedIn. You can also check out my website at theblockgroup.net. And I have lots of free resources for women business owners. So please take advantage of that. And I'd like to offer your audience use of my quiz, which is called myrevenueroadblocks.com. And that will help you identify what's in your way, what is keeping you stuck. And you can take the quiz and you'll receive a report that will talk about some of those common myths and how you can start to shift the way you're thinking and how you're approaching your pricing.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Patty, for spending this morning with us today. And thank you, everybody, for taking time to join us and learn from our experts like Patty and other experts that I always handpick for you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your awareness, how important it is for us all to grow and to expand. And I will see you all next week, 10 o'clock Eastern Time on Wednesday for another episode, either with experts or I will be teaching something for you. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.